All right, y'all. It's another day, another beautiful day, and this is Looking Through the Glass. We have Sela and Giselle, your hosts, and we have Wendy. I didn't even learn how to say your last name, Correa
Correa.
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 Um, and Wendy has a book called My Pretty Baby, and unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to read the book. But Wendy, are you willing to tell us a little bit about the book?
Yes, absolutely. My pretty baby. So I typically start by saying that my pretty baby is like an autopsy of my family. My question was throughout my whole life, what happened to my family, or why is my family the way that they are? And I spent decades peeling apart the layers of generational trauma and childhood trauma, family dysfunction, alcoholism, addiction, domestic violence, and family secrets. And I found healing through Buddhism and meditation, nature, hiking, sobriety, music, psychotherapy, Native American studies, and writing. And along the way, I had incredible encounters with icons like Ringo Starr and Joni Mitchell and Hunter S. Thompson. And my book is about resilience and recovery and creating your own chosen family when the one that you had is broken.
I
That
love that.
sounds. It's a
I love
beautiful because
that.
it honestly sounds like us.
Right? It does. It sounds like it literally we just didn't put it into a book. We should put it into a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because our family is, I've always been taught growing up, and yes, my mom, we've had a lot of toxic relationship in my life and generational trauma, but the biggest thing is I've always was taught blood doesn't make family. Who you
It's
choose
more
makes
than
family.
DNA to make family, is what I've always said. It takes more than DNA to make family.
That's right. And just because you're connected to by DNA doesn't mean that it's healthy to be in a relationship or um, that we should hold our family to the same standards that we hold friends. For instance, if some friend is very toxic or abusive to us, we would cut off that friendship. But we've,
Yes.
heard, oh, blood is thicker than water and their family and so on. But it's really not true when it comes to what we need to do to be healthy human beings. Sometimes we have to have those good, solid boundaries in order to be our best selves. And unfortunately, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes.
I have
Putting it, go
sorry,
ahead, Mom.
go ahead. Well, I personally have had to kick my father out of my life, no contact. Giselle has had to do the same. So we do understand that, like I've always said, it takes more than DNA to make family. But the reason why I always said that was because it was more in the accepting way instead of the kicking out way. It wasn't until later on in my life where I realized that my peace was just really stolen by my father. Every time that I talked to him, my mind, because of the things that he would say to me, like nobody else would hear. But the things that he would say to me were very toxic, very demeaning, very, like my uncle's funeral was coming up. I found out my uncle passed away and I asked for when it was going to be, and I got told that it was only for family. Yeah. And then afterwards he
Okay.
called, yeah, that exactly. I was like, wow, well, good to know. And then afterwards, after the funeral, he called me to, kindly tell me how it went. I know what it was. I'm not stupid. And it was then him talking about how my aunt, she's still my aunt. My aunt's niece was there and he hadn't got to talk to her in forever, and how great it was to get to hear from her again. I know what that was. That was straight up telling me, ha ha, that niece was there, but you weren't. You know what I mean? And then that was at the point where I was like, I'm done. I can't. My own father just told me that I can't go to my uncle's funeral because I'm not family. So like we understand the needing to the last stitch effort, but at the same time, it is something that some of us just really have to do is just separate ourselves for ourselves, choose us, and just move on.
Yeah. And I did not do that until actually my stepfather died. So, um, in my book, I outline, kind of trying to sort out what happened to my family. And it was easy to say, okay, starting when I was 7, my father died. So there's the big um,
Big ouch.
trauma of losing a
Yeah.
parent when you're 7. And then a few years later, my mom married the man who would become my stepdad. And he was alcoholic and violent and trigger violence. And but he had mental illness because he could also be very charming, and he could be very adventurous, and he could be kind, and all of those things. I mean, it isn't black and white, and I always wish
No,
that it
sometimes they
were
have
black and
the
white.
best qualities, the
Hmm.
most wonderful qualities that just and sometimes it's those qualities that are very hard to give up because
Yeah.
those violent tendencies or those heart cheating tendencies or other tendencies are there. you know like Giselle grew up
Hmm.
with a very violent stepfather, alcoholic
Yeah.
stepfather.
And since my mother had chosen him to be her husband and therefore my father, because I was just a child, I didn't
Yeah.
have any choice in the matter. And so my mom was a codependent, and I would learn later um, what her life was like or what had happened to her that would eh, you know make her to be a codependent. But growing up, it was that I had to leave the house when he would have a rage or when he would threaten to kill us. I would be the one that my mom would send away to go spend the night on the couch of a friend. And my whole life, I was terrified that my mother would die, of course, because my father died when I was 7. So I got the memo that people die, and people can leave you, and people can abandon you. So whatever my mom wanted, if it made her happy to be with my stepdad, then so be it. So most of my life, it was this terrifying fear that my mother would leave, or die or be hurt by my stepdad. And so whatever she wanted, I was also complicit because I was just a child. What could I do? So as an adult, though, when I started to peel apart these layers of what happened to my family, it was easy to point to, okay, well, first my dad died, and then I had this alcoholic stepdad. But there was more. It was always like something whispering in my ear that there's more to all of this. And my older siblings, one was 7 years older and one 12 years older, I used to think, oh, it's because of the age difference that they are not close to me, that they're not sort of loving and kind towards me. They were never like the kinds of siblings that would sit down with their little sister and play games or draw or, you know, braid their hair or all the things that I imagine older siblings would do with the younger one. And so throughout my life, I sort of longed for having that intact, big family. And I always tried to work hard to try to put them together. And, if I could just figure out what, when, where, why craziness happened, maybe I could put my family back together again. And so, it's a complicated story, and it did take decades, as I outline in my book, of finding healing modality that would help me to heal, because the kind of the message that I got from my stepdad and from my siblings was I wasn't lovable. I wasn't worthy. I wasn't worthy of love, because they were just sort of meh towards me. And I had to learn how to love myself through the the things that I found for healing: meditation and Buddhism and nature and hiking. And, I'd take two steps forward and one step back, because
That's
I was
how it works.
still drinking and smoking and, doing drugs. And then it wasn't until um, 38 years ago now that I finally got sober. And so that was a big piece that, thank you, that
38 years is a long time.
it's a
As
long
somebody that
time.
understands, it is a long time. That's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. So it was definitely the sobriety, but also the spirituality. So I had to find my own spirituality. I had um, walked out of church when I was 8 years old and was like, this is not for me. But I always felt spiritual, and I always felt connected. And especially through 12 step programs, when they talk about your higher power, that's just to me the deep that God that lives within all of us, and connecting with that place deep
Yeah, the
inside.
higher power is within. That's where the higher power is within. You got to go within to find that higher power. And I know
Yeah.
with me with recovery, that was the thing that I ran from the most. Is I started using at the age of 12. And I on and off throughout my life, that's what I ran from most, was going into those traumas, going into those fears, going into those abandonment issues, going into
Hmm.
all of the narcissistic things that have been portrayed on me, or all of that stuff. And Giselle, the
Hmm.
same thing. Like your story really lines up with Giselle quite a bit. Like you have her in tears because she
Yeah.
understands so much. Because my ex-husband was absolutely brutal. I mean, he was
Hmm.
brutal. He never put a finger on her, because if he put a finger on her, then there was evidence. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then, but what he would always do is he would make up lies saying that she would say something mean, or that she did this or didn't do that and this and that, to get her in trouble. And so she was always getting in trouble by me for no reason. And then it was
Hmm.
me always going, well, the adult's not going to lie. The adult's not going to lie. When in all honesty, no, the adult was fucking lying to me the entire time. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yes, and the whole Me Too movement and the revelation of all the Epstein files shows us,
Oh,
yeah, adults
oh,
lie.
yeah.
Exactly.
Big
The
time.
Epstein files, we haven't even done an episode on that. We plan on doing some on that, but like we haven't even gotten the chance because it's so triggering for us.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
But
no, if our government and if anything else, all the each of us that, kids are typically the ones telling you the truth, not the adults.
exactly.
kids don't
And we
have a
need to
reason to
listen.
lie.
Yeah, we have to listen to the kids, because,
Yeah. The only time a kid is going to lie to you is because they're scared.
right. And they don't want to
That's why
get in
they're lying.
trouble. Hmm.
Yeah, they don't want to get in trouble, or they don't know how to voice it, or so they just go, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's because they don't know exactly how to identify exactly what's going on inside of them. And what do we teach them? Because as an adult, as a parent, I'm over there in the kitchen crying over something, and mom, are you okay? No, I'm
Yeah.
fine. And that's what I've
Hmm.
taught my kids. you
Right.
know
I will say that the one thing that kind of brought me to tears, and it's the realization on how much we really align, because you were talking about how you were afraid that your mom was gonna, leave, or that she was gonna pass away or
Die.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, I had the same thing that happened to me every time they would get into a fight, but the difference is that she would leave and I would be left at the house with the drunk. And because she
Mm,
was trying to get away, and all I would hear was him call her names, and then compare me to her and say, "Oh, you're just like her." He would start calling me like a whore and a slut, and things like that. And
At the
your
this is
age
mom's
your
of
out
like
there
father?
sleeping
7,
That's
around.
your father?
her
That was my
stepfather.
stepdad.
That was her
Stepdad.
stepfather. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was very much, and that's where he was abusive towards me. Was he was always mentally and verbally abusive. And, I would sit there and there was points where I would be screaming at the door, begging for her to take me with her because I couldn't be around it. I didn't want to be around it. And I had nowhere to go. I'm, around between the ages of 7 all the way to like the age of 13, 14, where he was, only progressing to get worse. But I also
Hmm.
had confusing moments with him because he did have charming, loving moments where he would take us to the park, take me to the store and buy me something, treat me like I was his actual daughter. But then literally hours later, he would go right into the drinking. And then you just love bombed the shit out of me. And
Hmm.
now I'm being, told I'm not worth to, I'm not worth it. I shouldn't be living there. And, I do all this for you and you don't do anything for me type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I outline as how confusing it is because my book starts when I'm 7 and how confusing it is for a child that is supposed to be taken care of by the adults. And my stepdad started calling me his daughter before he even married my mom. And I learned also that he had been married before he met my mom, and he had 5 kids that he had abandoned. And so that was very confusing to me. Like, he has 5 kids, but he calls me his daughter. And of course, a child, they just want to be loved and taken
Hmm.
care of. And so there were these very confusing, we would go on vacation and he took me out west, and that's how I eventually came to Colorado, is because he took us on these incredible road trips. But then when he would drink, or it wasn't even always when he would drink, he had a trigger um temper, and you never knew
Yes.
what stupid thing would set him off. Like when I was a young adolescent, I had seen my mom and my older sister shave their legs, and I saw a razor, and so I like tried to shave my legs, and it turns out it was his razor, and he threatened to kill me because
Mm,
I had used his razor, like over a stupid razor.
right.
And that was one of the times, and where I grew up in Illinois, unfortunately, a lot of my friends were getting married and pregnant at 13, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
So my mom would say, pack a bag and go stay at Dorothy's house, my 16-year-old friend who was already married and pregnant. And I would go and sleep on her couch for extended periods of time until he calmed down. And my mom would call and say, okay, you can come home. And I told him how stupid it was for him to get upset over, a razor. And so I outlined those, this is to a child. It's very confusing when an adult acts this way. And
Peter
the
Potter like that.
message, yeah, and the message was, oh, why is he calling me his daughter, but then he threatens to kill me? And that
Mm.
was a very damaging relationship that, you know, is so confusing, and you internalize those messages. So it took me decades of healing to reverse that. And eventually, he would say, oh, I do love you, but still, even on his deathbed, um it was like, but your actions don't add
Yeah,
up
your
here.
actions are speaking a whole lot louder than your words, dude. Like
Oh
your
yeah.
actions at this point are, my ex, he said sorry, we were talking one time, he said sorry to me, and I just finally looked at him because this is when I I had already been talking divorce for years at this point, and I just every time I would throw him out, no joke, I was put in a financial situation where electricity, water, bills didn't get paid, and then he would come right back in because I needed that help, that codependency.
Mm-hmm.
And but your story resonates with Giselle so deeply. Like, I mean, so deeply. I understand where your mom, you know.
Mm-hmm. I
But yeah, you're
understand my mom too. And in hindsight, because I did learn, my mom was in her 70s before she told a living soul that she had been sexually assaulted as a child for over a couple of years by a neighbor. And my mom was born in 1918, and she was in rural Missouri. And even though I said, "Oh my God, mom, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to go to therapy?" "Oh, Wendy, that old man has been dead for a long time, and and we didn't have Oprah growing up. We didn't get to talk about this stuff." And I was like, "But mom, certainly that experience affected you, your choices of men, your how you think of yourself." And so I can, with compassion and love and understanding, I can see how my mom was affected. And also, back in her time, women got married at 22,
and
and
stayed married.
you just, got
You just
pregnant,
stayed
and
married. There was no such
you
thing.
stayed and you
It
just
didn't
stayed
matter if you had
married.
black eyes, missing teeth, getting punished in the stomach
Just
while
put
you're
makeup
pregnant.
on.
It didn't matter. Just exactly put makeup on it and hide it. Put sunglasses
Cover it
on.
up.
Don't go outside of the house. Stuff like that. And
Hmm.
everybody kept the back then the neighbors, kept their mouths shut. Though that's what
Right.
everybody did. Is that poor woman, but at the same time, they just allowed it to happen. But like you were talking about how you like with your stepdad, you never knew like when the outbursts would happen. It didn't even always happen
Hmm.
when he was drinking. And that's
Right.
exactly how my ex would be. Like, um, we would be at the gas station in the morning. I'm getting ready to take him to work. And I'm just putting gas in the car. And he comes out of the store and cussing and screaming and throwing fits, throwing things at me. And I mean, and everybody would be looking at me, and I'm just standing there like, what just happened? And I'd just be
What's
pumping
happening,
gas.
and what did I do?
Yeah,
What did I do?
what
Because
on, yeah, what
we're
on
all
earth
gonna
did
say,
I
what did
do?
I do?
What did I do? And I'm oh, sorry,
Hmm.
that just showing me right now that in my situation right now, I keep going, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? It
That's right.
wasn't me.
That's right. When we've been subjected to trauma, when we've been given messages that we aren't lovable, then we're always going to blame ourselves first, that we must have done something to deserve this. And that's what I had to spend decades healing, that I did not deserve any of this. I did not do anything, that this was adults who were mentally ill, who were immature, narcissistic, borderline personality, however you want to diagnose it, addicted, alcoholics. And it would also take until after my stepfather died that I kind of learned about my whole life. I would be like, what is wrong with him? Why is he so angry? Why is he, why does he act like that? And it was
Yeah,
after he died that I learned from some relatives of his. My stepdad was a Swiss American. His grandparents came to Wisconsin from Switzerland. And it turns out I learned a horrible story that when his grandparents left Switzerland, they had three children, two boys and a baby girl. And they left the baby girl in Switzerland. And this was the father's decision. So you have to understand, women didn't even have the right to vote in Switzerland until 1974. And so
Wow.
this mother, obviously, she had no choice in the matter. It was her husband who was deciding, oh, we can't be bothered with taking a baby to the United States. We'll just take the
Let alone a
boys.
girl.
So, can you imagine the grief, the
Ah,
anger, the resentment that this poor woman had that her husband forced her to leave her baby in a foreign country? And can you imagine the two boys, like how it was probably thrown in their face, like, suck it up and don't you complain, at least you weren't left in Switzerland. Like,
yeah.
I can just imagine what that household was like. And of course, this is unfortunately a story of many immigrant families. And I'm not talking just Latino families and, or war torn countries. I'm talking about, you know, Jewish families and Italian families and Irish families,
Irish
and
families and yeah.
what these immigrants had to deal with coming to this country with nothing, and the prejudice that was thrown in their faces because they didn't speak the language and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And the thing is that this lives on in a family. It's trickled down. So not even just current immigrants, but in the case of like my Swiss American stepfather, who, his father um, was institution. I learned his father had been institutionalized. He actually had diabetes that was undiagnosed, and so diabetes can make you go crazy. But he had also been raised in a family that had left a child in Switzerland, and the story is that like 9 years later, they finally saved up enough money to go back to bring the daughter. Well, 9 years? She was being raised by a cousin, and she didn't want to leave the only family she knew. And the
Mhm.
family that raised her didn't want her to leave. Plus, she didn't speak English. And so I learned that after my stepdad had died, because I was like, what happened to him? And there's a book by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce Perry, and that is the actual title, What Happened to You? So, now we're starting to look at not what did you do, to cause all these problems in school, like Giselle, not, oh, what did you do to, cause all these problems, but what
It happened to.
happened to you is what we need
Mhm.
to be talking about and looking at. And that's why I'm wanting to have these conversations, because we now know adverse childhood experiences live in our bodies up through adulthood. And we can be at a higher risk for mental illness, addictions, depression, and chronic diseases if we don't acknowledge what happened to us. So, Giselle, I don't know if you know the Adverse Childhood Experiences quiz, but you can Google it. It is just 10 questions that doctors have developed to want to understand better how adverse childhood experiences affect people. It's 10 questions, and you can answer those questions and get an idea of your score. And it's really just a way to educate people, and you'll be surprised. I have a score of about 8 of 10, and chances are you probably do too. And so that just gives you information that, like, oh, this is real. I am not just making this up. I'm not, just a wuss that I can't suck it up, buttercup. This is
Mhm.
real. This is scientific evidence to prove that what affected me as a child is still affecting me and will continue to affect me unless I take the steps to heal myself and to
I
make
think
sure that I surround myself with people who are loving and kind and who bring me up and do not bring me down. And if that means creating boundaries and cutting people out of my life, then so be it, because you have to be number one. You have to take care of yourself and be number one. And so
Exactly on
what's
that one.
what is so exciting for me is, as I was writing my book, I was also researching all of the most recent scientific evidence. So the books of like Gabor Mate and Bessel van der Kolk, and the book I mentioned, What Happened to You, and The Deepest Well by Nadine Burke Harris, and The Body Keeps Score. I was studying all of those books.
My neurologist made me get The Body Keeps the Score
Yes. So
because
I was
the amount of
studying,
traumas. Hmm.
yes, I was studying those books as I was writing my book. And it was my big aha moment of like, oh, there's scientific evidence to support what I'm feeling.
Hmm.
And the good news is, though, even though I experienced, and Giselle has experienced, and probably you, Selah, um, childhood trauma, we
Oh yeah.
also know that we can heal it. And it
Mhm.
was enlightening to me to realize that all the things that I intuitively sought out are exactly the things that they are saying that can help to rewire our brains and our central nervous systems. And so my book is like a guidebook for people who want to heal, but maybe they don't know where to start. And it isn't necessary that you're going to use all the things that I did, because I used the entire village to help me to heal. I used everything that I could. But perhaps, for you, Giselle, being in nature, or going for hikes, going for walks, um, making sure that you're eating well, sleeping well, and exercising well, that may be your way to heal your central nervous system. And but for me, it continues to be sort of all of it. I All of the things that I did, I'm
All the
still
above.
continuing.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the above.
Mhm.
We are definitely hiking is something that I always would do during our that relationship. I would be like, today's cleaning day. You know what? Screw it. You feel like going hiking? Let's go hiking. Jump in the car. Forget the house. I don't need the house. The house is lived in. Forget it. I'm going hiking. We're going out in nature. Or, hey, you know what? I don't feel like doing this today. This feels too much like work today. Do you feel like going to the lake? Let's go get your friends. Let's go to the lake today. You know, those kinds of things is something that I've always done and something that she does. But I wanted to ask you that test, the adverse child. What is the test?
Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, they call it ACEs. hmm And it's just a quiz. You can Google it, and it has 10 questions that you answer to get an idea of your score.
Yeah, I'm
It is,
interested in taking that.
it's just a simple adverse childhood experiences questionnaire for adults. And it gives you an idea. And, they say that 2/3 of adults in the United States have at least one adverse childhood experience, and 4 out of 6 have four or more. And the higher your score, obviously, the more healing that you need. And so this quiz is just acknowledgement for you to say, wow, I had no idea. I mean, I recently was a guest in a book club here in Denver, and the woman who was moderating and my friend who was there had both taken the test, and they were surprised to find they had like a score of 7. But so what that does is like, oh, it helps us to realize there's a reason that
We're not crazy. We're not
we're not
making it up. We're
crazy.
not being
Right.
dramatic. We're not
Exactly.
over exaggerating. We're not none of those things. What you are feeling is so true. I recently started my neurologist had me start doing cognitive behavioral therapy. And
Hmm.
when I was answering the questionnaire, because if you do any kind of therapy, there's like all these lists. And then I went through the childhood thing and my score was very high. My score was off the charts. And the very first thing that my therapist told me was, and she had to help me understand, and she still has to help me understand exactly how much I really have been through and how I need to just, because I refused to acknowledge the amount of things that I've been through.
Of
And
course.
that therapist has helped me because, like you stated, we like to go, oh, because we've been told to do this our entire lives. We've
Right.
been trained, we've been taught, we've been all of this brainwashed to go, I'm over
Gaslit.
exaggerating. I'm
Gaslit.
gaslighting ourselves. Exactly.
Hmm.
I'm being overly sensitive. My mom did it to me. It was done to her, and I did it to Giselle. We were taught as adults, well, children are the liars, not the adults. BS. The adults typically are the liars and the children are telling the truth. And if you need to investigate more and, all of that stuff. But, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we have to be honest with ourselves. I talk about this in my pretty baby that
radical
my whole life,
acceptance.
yes, but I had diminished what I had gone through because I always compared myself to someone else. Like, oh,
Yes.
well, I wasn't locked in a closet and I wasn't starved or I wasn't this or that. It's
Giselle
easy
does
to
the same exact
diminish.
thing.
But what I did experience was,
It was horrific.
a lot. So we have to, let go of that suck it up buttercup attitude of like, oh, you don't have it as bad as, children in India who are starving, or all those messages that we've gotten. And even people have like tried to, people society tried to diminish it, like, oh, I was beaten by a belt when I was a kid, but I turned out okay. I mean, people
Oh, that
want
was
to
you. That doesn't mean
diminish.
it's me.
Exactly.
Everybody's different. And yeah, and everybody diminishes. Everybody diminishes unless it's somebody that's been through it, like you, somebody that's done the layers of the work and has done the inner things and have written the books and that other people that have been taught and have realized I have been diminishing every experience that I have had. I have been belittling myself all these years. I have been
Hmm.
gaslighting myself. And this is the area where I'm at literally right now. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, or we say, in terms of domestic violence, the domestic
I
violence
say
isn't even like getting hit. If you're being threatened with violence, that's still domestic
this.
violence. Or, my stepdad hit me so hard one time I flew across the table and hit the wall. But then,
Hmm.
oh, but he only hit me once. Like that's that's no, that is not okay. Once is once too
Too
much,
many.
and being
Exactly.
threatened with violence is just as damaging as the actual violence, or the belittling, the verbal abuse. It's
Putting them down with in nice, even in joking manners, even in
exactly,
a joking
that's
manner. That's not
more
okay when you're dealing
gaslighting.
with
No.
especially when you're dealing with like a pre-adolescent or an adolescent. Like
Yes. And that
you,
is, people that say that, oh, I was just joking, it's just passive aggressive. It's
yes,
passive aggressive
it's
behavior.
passive
It's
aggressive.
not, it's
Thank you
not
for
That's my
adult
biggest
like
pet
behavior.
peeve. That's my
thank
biggest
you.
pet
It
peeve.
is. Yeah, it's just you being a jerk by belittling somebody that's younger or smaller than you. And that is, to
Mhm.
me,
A
narcissistic
bully,
traits.
a bully.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
just someone
You're
that's a
just an older
bully,
bully. You haven't gotten off the school ground, and that just tells me that you haven't dealt with your BS.
their own pain, their own trauma. And
Yeah,
it's okay to recognize that someone else has been hurt, but at some point people have to be the adult in the room and go, wow, maybe I was traumatized, but the trauma ends with me. I'm not going to proliferate that and keep passing it down. You
and
have to
I
be the adult to say, I'm not going to do this to my kids or, my stepkids just because I have had abuse as a kid. It ends with me. And the unfortunate thing is that many people don't recognize that. And they don't even recognize or acknowledge their own abuse. They're just angry and maybe they don't
don't
even
know
know
why.
why.
Yep. Yeah, I walked around angry for a long time, even though I knew that it had to do with abuse. I knew it had to do with a lot of things. I just, because I had been gaslit my entire life, and I really honestly, I think, didn't want to see how bad I had been damaged. I didn't want to see how much work I had to do. I didn't want to see the immense wall that stood in front of me with all of these different things, shame, guilt, and all these things that had been portrayed on me. And I have to applaud Giselle because she so didn't have to take the route that she did, and with no, mom, we're going to stop this now, you know. So Giselle is the generational curse breaker for
The
sure.
cycle breaker.
She is
And
the
it's
cycle
not
breaker.
easy to be the cycle breaker. I'm the
No,
cycle breaker. It's not easy, but it is well worth it. And especially when you have children, or if you're going to have children, to
she
say
has
the
a
trauma
9 week old
ends with
baby
me.
right now. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's why we
Congratulations.
talk about it. It's because I'm sitting here going, I'm a mom now, and and it's a little girl. So, I know that there's traumas. I don't want her to have those insecure traumas because I'm too busy looking at myself going, I'm fat and I'm ugly and shouldn't be on camera and doing this. No, I'm beautiful and I am perfectly fine doing this. There's nothing wrong with me doing this. I need to teach myself that. Those are still traumas that I weigh on myself. But I
Yes.
don't want to dare ever hear her say that she's fat and she's not pretty because that's something that is my biggest fear. That was put on me at a young age and I do
Hmm.
not want that put on her. There's,
It
traumas
was put
of,
on me at a very young age too.
discipline traumas. I do not want to discipline my child, in a way where it's, immediately hitting.
Right.
I want, there's so many alternate ways that I want to try before, having to go down that road because that's not a road that it's easy on the mindset for a child because then sometimes they forget why they're why they're in trouble at that point. So now they're just
Right.
being hit to be hit. And it's just there's so many different ways that I want to go about it, and I want to be the mom that my child can come to me at a young age and not 10 years down the road and she's now opening up to me after everything. But I want her to stop. I want the beginning to be the safe place, not
Yes.
in the future. And that's my biggest goal with her. I was like, I'm determined. And it took me 10 years to have a kid. And I really think I had to do a lot of healing before I had to get here, to have a kid. I
Hmm.
think that was, a way of going, no, you still have a lot of healing to go through before that. And looking at her, I have more healing. I'm going, I have to be better for her. I have to be better for me, but I have to be better for her too.
Right. It's a great motivator. I worked for years with women in their childbearing years as a childbirth educator, infant parenting instructor, and prenatal yoga teacher, and mommy and baby yoga teacher. And I would always tell women, if you haven't gone into therapy or looked at how you were parented and how you would like to change things, now is the perfect time. When you have a child and that tiger mama emerges of just wanting to protect your child, it's our innate will and desire to protect our child and to not pass on to them what we endured. So I applaud you for recognizing and saying, no, the trauma ends with me, and my
Mhm.
child will be protected in a way that I wasn't. My child, I will have an open, honest relationship with my child. And even a 2-year old, there's things like redirecting toddler behavior,
Yeah.
or just creating the environment that is healthy, that they're not getting into things, because that's, or when they are acting a certain way, if you just say that is age appropriate. The way that they're acting
Mhm.
is absolutely how a 2-year-old is supposed to act. And it's not for me, the adult, to say, oh no, you should be all grown up and know better than to do this or that, like, um that was so important to me. And I used what is called attachment parenting, where I had my son on my body a lot, or I'd carry him in a backpack, even just cleaning the house or going grocery shopping. Like, he was right there with me at all times. And he never cried. He never needed anything, because he felt protected. He felt loved. And he was just in a backpack watching everything that I did. And honestly, my son never cried unless he was hungry or wet. And,
That's my
that's
granddaughter. That's my granddaughter.
yay.
That is my
Doesn't matter
granddaughter.
Yay.
how she is.
You know how
Unless, or
so
she wants to sit up to see everything because she does not like being, no, she wants to see everything.
Yes.
she yells at you if you're laying her back like this, and her head, she yells at you.
Yeah.
At you.
Because they're
Okay, I'm
growing,
sorry, I'll
they're
take you up.
learning. They're growing, they're learning, they want to be connected, they want to feel like they are a part of. And that was, I
I
always say, like, of all the things that people buy you when you're having a baby, the one thing that I would always have is my very lightweight little backpack. When my son was able to hold his head up, I mean, that, once he was big enough, I loved that. I would go to the grocery store, and instead of putting him in that disgusting little cart that you were always
mhm.
afraid they could fall out of, he was on my back. And I was like telling him, Mateo, look, we're going to pick these apples and this and that, and that's red. And he was right there. And even just like trying to open the mail or vacuum or wash the dishes or cook, he was right on my back. And sometimes he was just so engaged, I thought he was asleep. So I'd have to go into the other room and look in the mirror. And no, he was just sitting there watching, just wide awake, just completely engaged in what was happening. And I swear by that. I mean, I swear by attachment parenting, because now, my son is a very independent, adventurous, strong, loving, thoughtful, caring human being. And that's the most important job that we can do in our lives, is to raise that kind of a human.
I say thank you for telling her that because
Oh,
she has been questioning her that attachment style, and I've been sending her stuff and telling her your mama's way wasn't the right way. The way we were taught, the way that I was taught, no, just let them scream until they cry. That's not good. That's not good for her. And she just
yeah,
instinctively, she knew. But
right.
like, she still questions because society puts out there, let them sit and cry. You're spoiling them. You cannot
You
spoil a
cannot
9 week old
spoil
baby.
a baby. You
Yeah, you
cannot
cannot
spoil a
spoil a 9 week
baby.
baby. She just came out of the womb. This is all new to her. She needs her mama's body heat. She needs to hear her
Yes.
mother breathe. She needs to hear her mom's heartbeat. And that's what protects her at night so she can sleep. Sleeping
Yeah,
with her isn't the worst thing in the world you could do. It is probably the
right.
best. And
Yes,
but society
co-sleeping.
has really been chipping at
Mm-hmm.
her and her way of instinctively wanting to parent.
Yeah,
So
these
thank
quote
you for
unquote
telling her that.
experts, sleep
Yes.
experts, who
Yes. And I
tell
just
you
want to
to
say
let your baby scream.
Yeah, when their
themselves to
baby has
sleep.
no emotional regulation and has no idea how to do that.
I'm
No,
sorry,
thank you for
their
telling her that.
licenses should be taken away because that's absurd. That,
Thank you for telling her that.
every instinct that you have when your baby cries is to go to your baby, not to
Yes.
ignore their cries.
Mm-hmm.
It physically
I've heard,
hurts.
yes, of
When they're screaming,
course.
it physically hurts. Like I've never
Ab-
had anybody tell me that. And I'm like, now that I'm experiencing, I was like, my heart is being yanked. And
yes,
I'm going to scream with her because I'm like, my baby is hurt. And so
yes.
I can't let her cry. I
You
sit there
listen
and
to yourself. You know who is the expert? You.
You, you are the expert. She
You're
is
the
right.
expert.
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for giving her that confirmation because you know when you're raising a baby and you know when you're a new mom and you've got everybody bombarding you with information. I think I'm one of the only ones that have not bombarded her with information. I wait until she comes to me because it's
Absolutely.
it's one
It,
of
and
those I took a
people
stance on
think that they
this.
need to tell you their opinions. It's like, oh,
Exactly.
just
Everybody
all
seems
right.
to think that they know
Th-
how to parent better
thanks.
than you
Just
know.
say thanks and move on.
But yeah, I have to
That's what I'm
keep
learning
telling her,
to do.
Giselle, you're doing everything so perfectly. It is unreal. Like
Yes.
follow those instincts. Do not listen to the 60-year-old books that we've been listening to all this time. Let your baby cry in the crib until it falls asleep. No, that's teaching your baby and giving your baby emotional
Right.
traumas
It's
before they
teaching
can
a
even
baby
remember 'em.
that when they cry, no one will come. I mean,
Yeah, it's a
that's
Hey,
teaching abandonment.
right.
It's integrating all kinds of sorts of things. So
Yeah. Oh,
thank
you're
you
so welcome.
for just confirming all of those things for her because you know what it's like when you're a brand new mom and she's never gotten this far in this journey. And you know, it I have to say, Giselle, I'm so proud of you as a mom. I just want to tell you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Absolutely. And you have to give me your address. I will mail you one of my
Please,
books.
please
I will
do.
email
And
Please
I
you.
will
do.
Yes.
I'd love for you to read it and use some of the information that helped me so much and the resources that I had to use to help me as well. I think they'll be very helpful to you.
Well, I know that one
Yes.
method of healing isn't when people have been through what Giselle's been through, what you've been through, what I've been through. One method of healing is never enough. Like
Right.
you've really got, and I'm learning this. Yeah, I'm in one therapy, but I'm learning. I'm going to other ways too, you know, and the most important thing that I've learned is that you really just got to go with what works for you and not what anybody else
Mhm.
tells you is going to work for you.
And
Like,
what feels right at that moment. I mean, I spent 7 years practicing Native American ceremonies, and that helped me to stay sober. And I was also going to AA, and I was also in therapy. And,
mhm,
I was using all of them all at once because that's what was healing and important for me at the
at
time.
that time,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
Thank
am
you.
very, very glad that you came on here. Thank you for sharing your book. Thank you for sharing your experiences. This has been an absolute amazing uh, conversation and episode and very insightful as a parent. You know, no matter how many times I hear it, I still learn new things about what Giselle went through. You know, I still learn the things that she's gone through. And having people like you that have been through the same thing that she's been going through is so helpful. And we just appreciate you so much.
yeah, and for you as well, Sila. I mean, you've you have your own journey, and I think it's so wonderful that you're willing to talk about it and acknowledge, that you're also a cycle breaker, and you're working with your daughter and your granddaughter to
Oh, no, I love her
heal
so
your
much.
family. So this is like a huge big deal that as a family you are the cycle breakers and you're healing yourselves so that you can raise this beautiful baby girl to be a strong woman who knows that she's loved and
And knows her worth, knows
and
that her energy and that she is
mm,
here purposefully, with purpose and on purpose, and that she is worthy of all the beautiful things in this world.
that's right. And that's the most important thing that we can do. I mean, most people that I know, famous people, regular people, they may have made a ton of money. They ran companies, they've written books, they've done this, they've done that. And then you ask them, what is the most important thing you've ever done? And they all say, being a parent to my child and raising a good human being. That
Absolutely.
you don't need you don't need to be a millionaire to be a good parent.
You don't need to be a millionaire to be rich, because the
Exactly.
what actually counts is not the money. What counts is the blessings around you.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I always tell my son, the billionaires do not enjoy their morning walk any more than I do. The billionaires do not enjoy their morning coffee any more than I do. The simple things in life are precious, and we can gain so much as human beings just for being grateful for what we have, and you know and enjoying and being grateful for the blessings that we do have. And
I
I'm
also
so
think
happy for you. You have a 9-week
9 week
baby.
old baby, yeah,
Oh, what a
precious.
blessing.
Yes, absolutely a blessing. And I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was.
Look at
Well,
you right at me.
obviously it wasn't that important.
Real quick, for our listeners, where can they get your book?
Well, they can find my book wherever they get books. I mean, they can go to their indie bookstore or bookshop or Simon and Schuster, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. You can also request it at your library. And so I have the book, I have the ebook, and I also did narrate my book, which is right now exclusively on Audible. So if you prefer to
I
listen to
love
books,
it.
it's there.
I love it when we have I love it when we have a guest that has a book that does their own audible. Because for me, because of my brain injury reading, I get to a certain point and then I guess it would be considered like a dyslexia type of thing that pops in. And I it literally will end up looking like I'm reading Russian. Like
Yes.
it doesn't, I can only do so long of reading and then it does that to me. So audibles are
Oh,
definitely, oh yeah, that
oh, there she is. Oh, there she is. Oh my goodness, how precious.
You gonna look
she
that
loves
way?
There
her
she
mama so
is.
much. When
Hi.
her mama walks into the room, her face lights up.
Oh
When
my
she hears her
goodness.
mama's voice, she smiles. It
Oh,
is
what
just
is her name?
Carolyn.
What is it?
Sarah Lynn.
Carolyn.
Carolyn?
Sarah Lynn.
Oh, Sarah Lynn.
Hmm.
Oh, oh, what a beautiful name, Sarah Lynn. Hi, sweet baby. Hi, sweet baby. Oh, how
She's such,
wonderful.
yeah,
You
she's
can't see her.
precious.
Show her.
She's
Hi,
a very,
sweet baby. Oh my goodness, look at you. Look at your beautiful face. Oh my goodness, what a sweet baby girl. Oh, are you just the sweetest thing? Oh,
She just woke
hi.
up.
I can
Hi.
tell she's got that mean mug look.
Oh.
All I gotta say is that the teleprompters on her face are amazing. And the subtitles
Oh.
on that baby's face are the best.
Oh. Oh,
Well,
how
I just want to
sweet.
say thank you again, Wendy, for sharing your story, sharing your book. I know our listeners will absolutely, including myself and Giselle, will absolutely benefit quite a bit from your book. And for anybody else that is looking on coming onto the show or sharing your story, you may remain anonymous as well. We recognize that not everybody wants to put their name to their story, but your story still will make an impact for others. You can reach us at 12 look in through THRU 34 the glass at gmail.com. You can reach out to us on our TikTok. You can reach out to us on our Facebook. We thank you for looking in through the glass. Sal, you had anything else to add?
Nope.